The listicle. The listicle is an interesting piece of blog content that we're going to talk about a bit today. The listicle is a blend of an article and a list. And it's kind of funny to call it a listicle, but bear with me. Some suggest that younger audiences with shorter attention spans are leading to the increased presence of list posts. But I see them on almost every major news site and certainly very popular on many different posts. BuzzFeed itself lives on these kinds of posts. So it's not just younger audiences and shorter attention spans. This is a full-blown content strategy for blogging. And let's explore a bit about why that is. The popularity of listicles can be driven by a few factors. First of all, comments on posts with lists are really high because typically there's someone who feels very strongly that something was left off the list. For instance, if we look here at BlogTO, that's classic for writing listicles. Here's one on the best Italian restaurants in Toronto and 51 comments about all of the restaurants that were left off of this list. Some of them are heated and highly emotional. Now, the thing is about comments is that comments are great for driving your page rank through the roof and also really high engagement conversations, encouraging people to come back to your site. So if you're a blogger, you absolutely want to encourage commenting, and what better way to do that than to post a list that people have an opinion on. Secondly, click-through rates are incredibly high on list-like articles. So even if the content is not necessarily the most compelling, 15 signs you're obsessed with your dog, they still translate that snackable, easy social content that we read on the go, that we share, we see through social media. We know what to expect with a listicle, and so they drive a lot of traffic. We know what to expect, if you will. Most of the time, listicles are not opinion pieces. Here's a fun fact. Did you know that odd-numbered lists generate moderately higher click-through rates than even-numbered lists? So 15, 11, and 17 are all great numbers that you can shoot for. Next time, point out when you're looking at the next list and look at if it's an even or odd-numbered list. Also, listicles are highly reliable and very specific. BuzzFeed is driven almost entirely by finding incredibly specific experiences and generating a list off of it. It's the whole you know you were born in the 80s when style email campaigns you might have received many years ago, and it's been transferred to this idea of a listicle and made social. Listicles are often very visual. They have images. BuzzFeed is based on this whole idea that it's mostly GIF, but they can be text-based content as well. Now, listicles are not just meaningless content for a fun, random day. They also can have a business tie-in. For instance, let's check out this one. Here's a Walmart BuzzFeed partner sponsored feed. 11 kids who got exactly what they wanted for the holidays. Clever tie-in to a Walmart toy shopping list. Now, again, mostly driven by humor, but an amazing tie-in and sponsorship with a brand. Also of note, let's look at the share rates here. For this particular post, we see that it did much better in sharing on Facebook than on Twitter. Is that partially driven by the visual aspect of the post? Absolutely. Also, we provide some context around the links that we share on Facebook, whereas on Twitter, we mostly just share the link out. So the Walmart sponsored listicle might not make sense as much for a tweet, but if you want to add your own little insight on the time your kid freaked out over the holidays over a gift they loved or hated, then this might make perfect sense to go out through Facebook. Now, you might also consider content-specific listicles with a lot of text. So when we're talking about reliable content, here's an example of 17 great websites to find freelance jobs. This is a perfect blog post for FreshBooks to write. Now, they could have written an article about using freelance websites to land a job. And it could have been called How to Use a Freelance Website or Freelance Job Site to Get Your Next Gig. But by saying 17 great websites to find a job, we reliably know that there must be at least some content in there that's going to inspire me. And if I already know a general amount about using freelance websites to find a job, I'm still going to click through on this post because surely with 17 websites, there's at least one I haven't heard of before. There's also a lot of great context here. So we can see we've got some do's and don'ts for advice along with the list itself. This is a great approach for brands to take on. Also consider, of course, your audience and content-specific listicles. So here we have eater.com, and we can see lots and lots of articles that make sense for the target reader for eater.com. How about the top 10 cheeseburgers in the US? Anyone? Now, there are some who criticize listicles for not being compelling content. Slate wrote a great article commenting that Cracked has some of the best listicles because they provide information that you can't find elsewhere. And here, for example, the 6 creepiest Easter eggs hidden in video games, or ways that you can crack a video game or find extra, new insight within a video game. There's also lots of science and tech-related listicles here that give us a bit more information, a little less remember the time when, and a little more, hey, did you know? And with that, I present to you our own class listicle on the 7 ways to use listicles effectively in social media marketing. Here we go. Number 1, consider client-specific lists with humor. So you might have to write your business objectives for 2014. That might be something, especially if you're in a nonprofit, you're wrapping up annual reports in December. How about the 23 ways we're going to rock 2014's business objectives with a few animated GIFs? Number 2, don't make every blog post a listicle. That's what BuzzFeed is for, and at some point you actually have to say something compelling if you're going to be a blogger. Number 3, consider more than just a rotating GIF with your article. Go by the FreshBooks example and use meaty content. It'll go a long way to increasing your click-through rates in the future. Here's a great example. Number 4, make sure that you include some photos. Click-through rates are traditionally much higher for visual posts. And remember, it shows through in the Facebook post when they share it. So think about what photo you're going to include and make that something people actually want to share. By the way, that might be a good example to incorporate Ryan Gosling into at least one of your lists. Also, don't overthink your list. Stating the obvious is what makes listicles approachable. But by the same respect, make sure you find some balance with preaching. The best listicles provide us with new information, insights, or memories. We all know the 10 most common ways to fight a cold, so we don't need another article on the 10 best cold and flu remedies. Although, with the way I've been feeling lately, maybe I should read that article. That's it. I hope that you explore the listicle, comment on a list in the discussion board, and maybe we can start a top 12 list of interesting and best listicles that we've come across in this class. Take care. See you soon.